So you may have seen that the energy price cap has dropped. The new figure starting on the 1st of July 2023 will be for the typical household, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. For the typical household, the bill will be £2,074 a year. And this actually represents the first time our bills will be dropping in about 18 months. But don't get too carried away. We're not going to be saving that much money compared to what we were paying 6 months ago, a year and a half ago, and we're still be paying lots more than the prices historically before all the kind of increases started happening. But I'll take you through in this video exactly what this means by typical price, typical energy bill, because still a lot of confusion around that, even though we've been talking about this so much over the last year and a half, and also be talking about what it might look like in the future. So first of all, let's go back to basics, shall we? Let's talk about the energy price cap, exactly how it works, because sometimes people still think that this price cap, this £2,074 a year, is the most a bill can be. It doesn't work like that. The price cap itself is placed a limit on the unit of electricity and the unit of gas that the energy companies can charge. And similarly, there's also a cap on the maximum the standing charge can be on your gas and your electricity. The standing charge is basically what you pay, even if you don't turn on the lights or put the heating on, that still gets charged. And then the unit costs are the actual usage of your energy. So this price is £2,074 typical price cap typical bill under the price cap. This is the household which they've calculated, Ofgem, the energy regulators have calculated as what a typical household will be using. Now, if you have a bigger house than typical, whether physically or just as a household, you use more energy, then it will be higher than that £2,074, or at least could be. And if you are a smaller house or there's less people or don't use much energy, then it will be lower than that. Okay, so it's £2,074. This is just a kind of a benchmark figure because it's very, very complicated individually. In fact, it can vary as well where you live in the country. It can vary how you pay for your bill as well. But broadly speaking, £2,074. Now you might think, hang on, what does that actually mean? Well, the price cap before that was staggering. Let me get this little chart up for you here and I'll show you. This is the history of the price cap over the last, 3 and a bit years. So the top there, we've got the new one that's starting on July the 1st for 3 months. Before that, you see there are two figures here, the April to June chart here. The price cap in brackets was £3,280. So that is a big drop down. The actual price cap itself has dropped. But you'll see there another figure before that, an EPG. That is not a weapon of some kind in a movie. That is the energy price guarantee. This was set at £2,500 from the beginning of April. That was a separate cap, an additional cap that was put into play by the government. That was essentially, the idea was you would pay the lowest of the price cap or the energy price guarantee. The energy price guarantee was lower. So actually, although it's a much bigger drop in the price cap figure, the energy price guarantee wasn't so different. So it represents actually about 17% less from July onwards to what you'd be paying in this month, in April, May and June of this year. Again, it gets quite complicated. We're talking about annual figures and doing it over months and stuff. These things is not ideal. But broadly, what you're paying right now, your direct debit, as long as you're paying by direct debit, if you took 17% off that, you may well get a figure that represents what you should be paying from July onwards. Remember, with direct debits, this is always important to know. The direct debit is your kind of a total over the year divided by 12. And the idea is rather than having really high bills in the winter and quite low bills in the summer, you pay the same amount and it evens out. So you overpay in the summer and can essentially underpay in the winter. So it's a good way of doing it. It's a good way of budgeting. I know not everyone's a fan, but it's a good way of doing it. Plus you get a discount on your bill. But that's what we're talking about here. Okay, so it's 17% discount. That is where we're going. Now, the energy price guarantee, incidentally, that has now gone up to £3,000 from the 1st of July. So it's way higher than the price cap. It's kind of irrelevant. It may never even come back. Obviously, if bills were to go up again, maybe it would. But broadly speaking, that's gone. We're now back to the price cap. So we're going paying 17% less than that. But let's quickly go back to that chart that I had for you, because that just shows you what I was saying about it's not really much of a saving. Yes, we're saving on the bills in April, May and June. But look at this. I've kind of got what the average monthly direct debit would have been, this third column along. So the average monthly direct debit on that typical use for the price cap from July will be £173. So it's about 25 quid less than what we're paying right now every month. But if we go back to what we were paying January to March and then also October to December of last year, 175 quid, practically the same. And that's because we had not just that energy price guarantee figure, but we also had that £400 across 6 months. That's £67 a month subsidy from the government. And we go back before that, before the price cap went up really astronomically, but still pretty high, 162 quid. Again, that is April to September 2022. So really, since that time, bills have been roughly pretty much the same for the last year now. And we're only going back to kind of that figure from March 22, actually. That's when it was down to £100. Even that was pretty high. So we're still well above those normal levels, about 75% more than what you would have been paying for. So yes, it's great, prices are going down, but you're still not going to have a huge amount of cash spare as a result of this. Now, the price cap is now being reviewed every 3 months. It used to be every 6 months. And the current forecast, again, it's still early days, but the current forecast for the next price cap after the one that's just been announced, which will start in October, and the one after that in January 2024, is then to stay broadly the same as well, around this kind of figure, maybe a little bit lower in October, maybe a little bit higher than they are now in January. So roughly speaking, you'll be looking at a typical usage still of around £2,000 typical bill for a while now. And that's not changing, unfortunately. And there's no kind of new additional government support that's been announced. We're not surprised about this. They kind of feel they've done that. There has been some cost of living payments for people on certain benefits that were announced end of last year. They are still going out this year and into next winter, springtime of 2024 for certain people. But if you don't get that, there's no additional help. You've still got to deal with a bill of around £2,000 every single year. Now, one good news that's happening from July onwards, that is really good news, I think. Still very high bills, but a premium for people on prepayment meters. I'm a bit of a tongue twister there, right? But people, if you're a prepayment meter, you would generally be paying more than someone on a direct debit on a normal standard meter. That has been removed. It's going to be about £2 or £3 different, but broadly, they're going to be roughly the same now. So that's great news. You're not paying more. And generally, the people who had those kind of meters or use those meters are people who don't have as much money. Generally, that's how they work. Not always, but broadly how it works. It's really good that that has been removed. So that is great. That will be coming down to a similar level. If you are currently on a fixed deal, something important to share about you here. Fixed deals don't really exist anymore. They haven't for a long time. But if you did lock into a fix before that energy price guarantee came into play last October, it may have been that fix was higher than the EPG. So it was lowered down to be level with it. Now, it could be that the energy price guarantee from July onwards goes up from £2,500 to £3,000. It could be that your fix goes up with that. So just keep an eye on things. Again, not many of you will have fixes because there weren't many that were available and not many that were very good. But do bear that in mind and make sure if that does happen, maybe get in touch with your energy provider and see if they can do something to support you. Because it's important to remember, this energy price cap, not the guarantee, the cap only applies to standard variable rate or default tariffs. The standard thing, if you don't do anything, the one they put you on, it only applies to that. So really important to just check the situation if you're on a fix. Now, with these prices coming down from July onwards, it could be, there's no guarantee this will happen, but it could be we start to see more fixed deals coming from different providers. Going back to where we were just 2 or 3 years ago, when the deal was, the best thing to do was to switch your providers, keep doing that, get a better deal and get a better fix because that'd be lower than the price cap. Now, that could well happen from July onwards. Don't know. If it does happen, I'll let you know on the blog. But one thing to bear in mind, if you start looking at comparison sites between now and the beginning of July, and you see some fixes or different providers on offer, and it says you will save this amount of money by switching, be really, really careful. Because one of my big frustrations with comparison sites for energy is that the rules are set by Ofgem. The rules are you have to tell them how much money they would save based on what they're paying right now. Well, right now, your bill is at that energy price guarantee of an average of £2,500 a year. You could well have a fix coming along which is lower than that energy price guarantee, but higher than an energy price cap from September. Were you with me? So be really, really careful there. If you see a fix comes along and you're being told by a comparison site that you're going to save money, just ensure that that is not in itself higher than the price cap, because you'd be better off maybe just waiting for that price cap itself to come into play, particularly as those expectations are that that's not going to get any higher or lower, or not significantly higher or lower over the next sort of 9 months or so. Hope that makes sense. Get more information over on becleveryourcash.com if you want to look at that big long list I had of the different price histories on the price cap and more information about how you calculate what you're paying. My name is Andy Webb. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, cheers.